Yo, 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 how's it, everyone? I hope everybody's good. Um, Welcome to a brand new morning. And it's a Thursday, 9 o'clock in South Africa, just after 9. And I have on the other side of the line somebody that I've been wanting to really have a chat to with regards to the way he runs his label. And I'm talking about Fonque. This is somebody who has 20 years plus in the game, taking up roles as a DJ, as a label manager, as a producer, now as a label owner, and also a radio and TV host. Can you believe it? And this is one of the most versatile DJs in the scene, like broken beat, bossa nova, hip hop and soul, and every type of house there is. And this is somebody who's played in Hong Kong, somebody who's played in the UK, he's played in Switzerland, just to name a few countries, and a former manager, label manager for Soul Candy Records, and one of the most influential record labels that SA has ever seen. And in 2015, Fonque, he joined forces with the super producer Julian Gomez to start a label called Stay True Sounds. And this was a label that I think the main aim, I mean, he will explain it for himself, but the main aim for me from the outside is to really discover artists in the electronic music scene and discover, untapped talent, if I may put it like that. And I'm honored to be chatting with someone I call Boot, Alan Nicolan, but you can call him Fonque. Hey man, welcome. How's it?
Thank you. Wow, what an amazing introduction. Thank you, LSG. How are you, man?
I am good, bro. I'm so good. I'm also grateful that to you, firstly, for agreeing to do this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I think when you gave me a call to kind of give me an understanding as to what we were going to be discussing, I thought it was very important that we chat about the label side of things because, like you said, I run Stay True Sounds and Stay True Beats, and there's a lot of kind of discussions that go around the two labels that I think we need to get into, which might help a lot of producers because we've got so many producers in South Africa making music, and everyone's kind of knocking on doors, trying to break through and trying to be the next FKA Mash or Sir LSG. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to get into that sort of stuff and kind of maybe help some people understand the inner workings of a record label.
Sure, bro. But I actually, it's a good thing that you're touching, about how many people need help out there, and you are receiving, I'm assuming, demos on a daily basis. And I just want to touch on the story of one of the artists on your label. I mean, you're about to release your 60-second release on Stay True, and this would be the album of China Chameleon. And we were chatting just before we went on live how he almost gave up on his music and the music industry as a whole. Do you want to touch on that a bit?
Yeah, it's such an incredible story. I kind of feel like this is what happens with producers. And China has been producing for close to 10 years, if not 10 years. And he had been putting music out himself, but he had not been really breaking closed down, not been really getting any spins on radio. And he knocked on my door a few times, and I checked his stuff out, and it was good. And one weekend on my radio show, Selective Styles, I decided to play a song of his on his own label, which I really liked. But the radio show really helps me gauge if a song or an artist has the potential to do really well based on the response of music that I play. And I played the China Chameleon song. I wish I remembered the name. The response was insane. And I mean, my show does really well on Twitter because I engage with the Twitter community while I'm doing my show, and I let them know what the songs I'm playing and retweet everyone's kind of what they're going through when they're hearing the music. And the response to the song was amazing. And then China hit me up and he was like, "Thank you so much." But then just after that, I thought it was, I really liked discovering new talent on the radio show and being the first person to kind of showcase someone that his journey is just about to begin. I feel that a lot of radio shows only highlight artists once they have reached their peak, and it doesn't really help people or give them a platform, and that's exactly what Selective Styles is for. And I got him in. He drove down all the way from his hometown of Mpumalanga and spent the day in Johannesburg, and I interviewed him, and he told me the story of he almost gave up. He almost threw the towel in. It was 10 years of production, and that's the one thing you can hear in his production is the maturity. You can hear the amount of time this guy has sat behind the machine and just made music. And I put out an EP of his on Stay True Sounds that did exceptionally well, opened a lot of doors for him overseas. I had Jazz hitting me up being like, "Bro, please send me this song up at gigs this weekend." Kiri from R2, who puts out Charisma's music. So already things were starting to happen. And then I was like, "China, we need to do an album." And the album's coming out on the 8th of May. And I've done some promo work around it, and 2020's this guy's year, man. He is incredible. I know you received the promo. The first song that you opened your show with,
yes,
was from the album, which is coming out. And I think it's a beautiful story of someone that was just about to give up, and he just needed just to kind of do that extra lap, and everything has kind of come full circle, and he's getting what's due because he's put the work in. And I think it's a really beautiful story of someone that hasn't given up. Because I think a lot of producers expect to be China Chameleon or FKA Mash, or even myself, or even Sir LSG in a very short time. But I think everyone's story is different, firstly. And secondly, I think sometimes you need to put the work in. And if you look at my career, it definitely hasn't been something that happened overnight. I've been in the game for a very, very long time, and only now, I would probably say the past 3 to 4 years, have I become a bigger brand because of the radio show and my record label. But prior to that, it was all very kind of, I was very much more underground than I am now. I get a lot more eyes and ears based on the platforms that I'm allowed to be on.
Yeah, but touching on, sorry to cut you off, but I just want to jump on in there. Well, firstly, I can see a few people saying that the volume is a bit too low. So I think, I don't want to push it too high because it will distort on my side. But maybe if you can use your radio voice to have a bit more power.
Okay,
but
no problem.
But I wanted to touch on. I'm really moved by the drive that people have, and the not giving up spirit, and you've got a similar story as well, because you started as a label manager on Soul Candy, and there was a time where Soul Candy stopped doing business, right? And you were out of a job, literally, and you then found ways to now get back together again, pull yourself together and start this new venture that is Stay True. But I want to know, from your experiences at Soul Candy, how important were those? How important are those in your running of Stay True Sounds? Are there things that you can say you took from there and things that you didn't kind of take from the label?
I think, without a doubt, I would not be sitting here right now if it wasn't for Soul Candy. Soul Candy was an amazing experience for me, but it wasn't necessarily my lane. If you listen to the content that Stay True Sounds puts out and you listen to the content that Soul Candy puts out, they're very, very different. But if we're talking the business of music, I learned everything I learned was from Soul Candy. Without a doubt. I wouldn't be able to run a record label if it wasn't for the experience that I'd gained being in Soul Candy. So it was a tough time, and I know you know this because you and I discussed it quite a lot. Because we were chatting when I got retrenched from Soul Candy, and it was like, what's next? It was definitely a tough time, but for me to be able to kind of, Julian jumped on in the early days, and we decided to open up our own label and push that forward from where we were, which was just throwing money we didn't have into a business, to now where Stay True Sounds makes pretty okay business, and the brand is really big. You know,
Yeah.
I'm able to connect with other brands. I'm able to have events with Puma, just with the brand. There's a couple of festivals that hopefully we'll be able to go to after lockdown that Stay True Sounds have dance floors on. So I think the whole brand and the record label is constantly growing and discovering incredible music. I just think the difference between Soul Candy and Stay True Sounds is just the content.
Yeah.
You know, Soul Candy was very much about radio hits, whereas Stay True Sounds is very much about the music. You know, I don't A&R music based on radio. Radio is like the last thing. For me, as if it moves me here and it touches me here and it does something that moves me full stop, it lands up on the label. If it doesn't, then, you know, I pass. Whereas Soul Candy was very much, can this make us money? Will this pay the bills? And will this land up on radio?
I love that,
So
bro.
I think,
I love that.
yeah,
I love that so much. And I am saying this because I think from like you are basically a label that's putting out underground music, and the plus on that is that you have a show, a national radio show, and you are playing underground music, and none of your music is, you're not playing anything compiled. Like every week the show is fresh, it's new music, it's music that people haven't heard, and it's mostly untapped talent, which I love, you know. But I want to touch on just running the label, and if I can go back to the beginning a bit, like where do you then begin? So now you're out of a job, and you talking about a label with Julian, but in terms of like quick steps, like where do you then go when you say, okay, we are opening up a label? Is it opening up a business, and how do you connect with the people that are gonna put this music into digital platforms and so forth?
I think before you start anything that's going to be something you commit a lot of time to, you need to have a vision. And for myself, when I opened up Stay True Sounds, it was with Julian Gomes, and Julian left probably after the first year and a half to do his own thing. We're still very, very close. But
Which I admire, by the way. Sorry to cut you.
yeah,
Yeah, but carry on.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, he's got his own record label now, but he's got his own vision. Um, but I think, you know, I can't start the story without Julian because he was so integral to Stay True Sounds at the beginning. And the points were what I'm trying to make is that we both had to have a clear vision of what we wanted to do, what the record label was going to be called, what sort of music would be on the label. And then once you've got that vision, you can start planning out logos. I mean, we commissioned the Stay True Sounds logo from an incredible artist in Cape Town called Yaku Haasbroek, who did a beautiful job, and that has now been, you know, the logo and what people recognize as the label since the beginning. And then, to be totally honest, I think once we had committed to what the label was going to be, the music just came in, man. We didn't really have to fight hard for the right music to come in. I mean, our first release was Bruce Loco. Bruce Loco's putting out an album of Get Physical this year, and he's an incredible producer. And I think, you know, it was just about the right timing. If I look at Bruce Loco and Soul Candy, he wouldn't have got a release because his music wasn't aimed at radio. And I think there was just this massive gap in the market in South Africa for us, for what we wanted to put out and show the world. And if you look at European countries, even in the States, there's hundreds of record labels that represent what State True Sounds represents. But in South Africa, it's so radio driven that there's very few. And if there are labels that come up, they don't last very long because they don't have the understanding of how to run a record label. So we were very fortunate to have the understanding that this is going to be a passion project for a long time before we start making money. And the money is not amazing, but you got to look at the bigger picture. And right after that, I mean, we signed FKA Mash's first release. That was when he was just Mash, and then he changed his name. And so many great artists just kept landing up in our inbox. And there was no real force or push, or we just kept finding the right artists. And I think it's because these artists discovered that finally there was a platform that could represent them properly. And since then, it's just the release schedule for this year is just nuts, man. Every week I'm able to put out music, and it's not because I have to, or like this is something that I need to make sure I get this box is ticked every Friday. The only reason I'm doing it is because I'm getting so much great music. And like I said, I've got China Chameleon's album on the 8th of May. Jazzuel's album will get a release date next week. I've got a couple of other ones I can't mention now, but then you know, the Beats by Hand EP, Household Funk, and Chris Sen is this Friday. Radic the Myth, I got a Karabo EP, KVRVBO. There's just so much talent in South Africa. I think people needed an outlet, and fortunately, we were able to create that. That platform for people.
And before, actually, there's a couple of questions as you were speaking that I'm thinking about, but I want to first touch on the administrative part of it, right? So now you've got this vision of what the label is going to represent from a music point of view, from an artistic point of view, you know. And how do you then move about the business side of it? Are you registering a company, and are you? Yeah, if you can just touch those few, registering a company and also connecting with whoever is putting your music up on different music online stores.
So administration is not necessarily one of my favorite things to do, but it's part of a business. I'm 100% creative. You know, you can even hear it with the music that comes out. And I've been able to, through my years at Soul Candy, learn and understand copyright, which is exactly what the music industry is all about. There is this, I think it's just a misunderstanding of how music gets signed to a record label. So I made a decision from the start, based on the work that I did at Soul Candy, that I wasn't going to sign artists. So if you sign an artist, you generally take all their rights. But if you take all their rights, you need a team to manage those rights, which I don't have. So all I want to do is represent the music. So how I've done that is I license artists' music. So if Kid Fonque likes a song and wants to sign it to his label, State True Sounds, I license the music from that artist. They still have the rights to it, but I license it for a term or a period of time at a certain percentages that everyone gets to agree to, with a couple of other points, and that's all on my contract. And then from there, I have the rights to give those songs a platform through my label, create covers, and then put it out to the world. And the next step from there is finding an aggregator. That's what you call distribution in a sense. And there's a couple of really good ones internationally. We in our early days were with an international aggregator. And what an aggregator does is it takes your content, all the music that you're releasing, and then it pushes it out to every single digital platform that's available. Legal platform, may I say. iTunes, Apple Music, Beatport, TrackSource, Spotify. And then what an aggregator does is it gets all the income from these guys twice a year. They get all the income, they take their split as being an aggregator, and then they account back to the label. For a record label, one of the most important things, and I'm doing my administrative work and changing a few things on the label side now. I was getting it done last year, but things have stepped up in the label, so I'm changing a couple of things. But accounting, if you're gonna be a record label, you need to account to your artists. And I know it's difficult, and I know a lot of record labels struggle to account because it takes a lot of administration. It takes a lot of sitting down with a calculator and adding up and seeing who gets what portion and what is recoupable and what is not recoupable. But the only record labels that have survived and that are good record labels that have history are record labels that can account to their artists. That's key. So if you're going to start a record label, you need to be able to understand that it's going to be really cool and exciting to sign music and put it out there to the world and create a brand. But you got to make sure that you have a good aggregator that can account and get your music out to the world and account back to you. And then you either need to find a third-party business to do your accounting and statements for your artist, or you need to have an accounting mind that can get the proper information and the proper accounting back to the artist. Because there's not a lot of, the money, I remember the statements we were sending to artists at Soul Candy. At Soul Candy, we were selling CDs. There was a lot of money in physical. And if you look at, the money you made off a CD, let's say, for example, you're Sir LSG, and I've signed your album. If we sell one CD, let's say, for example, there was maybe about 14 to 20 Rand for you on one CD. On streams, which is the way the world is going, everyone is streaming off Spotify and Apple Music. There's on Spotify, there's about 0.00, maybe 3 decimal points, 7 cents on one stream. So already your income has dropped so much. So I think it's just an understanding of the music industry's changed. You're not going to be able to, as an artist, make as much money as you would have in the past if you've been around for that long. And to see a record label as a platform that can turn on all the other things that you want to happen, where you will make money, like gigs.
Yeah. But I also want to touch on something else with regards to your label. And the first question that I want to ask, I'll ask the second one, is that would you advise everybody to start? Can anybody start and run their own label and successfully so? And the reason I'm asking this is that yes, there's been a conversation about being independent and owning your own music and releasing your own music, which is all good, right? But I, for example, I've said this before, that I'm much more comfortable releasing my music on Google for as long as I can, because it's licensing the music. I'm not a signed artist, and I can license my music on another label if I want to. But I don't have the passion to be signing other artists and going through paperwork for other artists, I'm already going through enough paperwork with the collaborations that I'm doing, between me and singers, between me and session musicians and stuff like that. I honestly don't have it in me, and there's nothing wrong. But I want to know, because now, can anybody run a successful label? Is it just a matter of opening up, say, once the company is set up and you've got your aggregators, then boom, the label is popping? Or is there more to it to make it work?
Oh, there has to be so many other things to make it work. The music is going to be the representation of what your brand and label is. So you got to make sure your music that you're releasing is on point. Like, has to be on point. And I get so many promos every single day, and they're good, but they're just not on point. And if I'm going to be a proud record label owner, I need to make sure that I'm comfortable and confident in the content that I put out. And when I put it out there, that I make sure that it's something that represents what I represent, firstly as a DJ, as a curator, and as a label owner. So I think that's the most important part, is to make sure that your content is on point. And if it sits well with you as a label owner, then you're good to go. You know what I mean? Then you know what you're representing. In regards to just opening up a record label, I suppose anyone could do it, just like any business. But there's a lot of rules and laws that you need to abide to when it comes to licensing music from artists, and the understanding of how that works. You know, are you going to license their music? Are you going to maybe be their manager? Are you going to take them on 360 and take their bookings and then take their management and put out their music? And a lot of that stuff takes teamwork. And, you know, like I said earlier, I decided to take away the 360 model and not get involved in artists' bookings. Although I know that if you release through me, at some point your bookings will definitely go up. I don't eat out of that pie because I know I don't have the administrative strength to come and chase you for that money. So I'm just like, I'm going to focus on the music only.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with that. And I think, again, that comes back to the decision of opening up a record label. What is your vision? And that should be part of the vision. How am I going to deal with artist music?
Sure.
If I have a team, and I'm gonna deal with things like major record labels do, where they've got like 10 people working for them, and they've got a guy that's hitting up radio, they've got a guy that's gonna be getting PR and marketing runs through newspaper and what. Then take more rights.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
I hear you.
You got more bills to pay. You got more salaries to pay.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about vision. But like I said, everything. You can find everything and how to do it on the internet. Sure. You know, you can Google or go onto YouTube. How do I open up a record label?
Sure.
And you know, you would find out. But I think the successful record labels are the ones with the vision, and the ones that kind of fulfill that vision and make sure that things will change as you go, but you adapt.
Yeah.
I think. If you can deal with the administrative paperwork and you can commit to accounting to your artists and you have the passion for it, I think there should be more record labels in South Africa representing independent music.
Sure.
Without a doubt. The one thing that I say on my record label, you know, a lot of artists that I've dealt with in the past are kind of like, should I release this album by myself or should I release it with Stay True Sounds? And some of the times I push them to do it themselves because I just feel like Stay True Sounds is taking up a lot of the music that's coming out.
Yeah.
And I feel that there needs to be more than just Stay True Sounds.
Okay.
For real.
But also, tell me about the, you know, with the way that you release, and I understand you're getting so many songs and so many music that you license from different artists, most especially the underground artists, you know, like I said, untapped talent. But is that where we are going in the digital space, that we will be seeing more and more releases frequently, not necessarily from you, because it's not only you, you know, like when you look at how the major labels are releasing, they're also releasing quite a lot, especially now, more than what used to be the norm back in the days, where some labels would be releasing 1, 2 EPs, 4 EPs a year. But it seems to be like the global norm that now more and more there's a lot of frequent releases. Is that where we are going?
I think things are they're a lot easier to release than they were back in the physical days. When I was releasing CDs at Soul Candy, the amount of work that had to get done before you could even take the actual album and send it into manufacturing was immense. There was artwork, label copy, ingestion of all of that information into the system so that we could account to the artist, to make sure that the contracts between the artist and the label are on point, to do a photo shoot, to make sure that the photo shoot, the artist is happy with the photo shoot, all these things. Whereas now, I can license a Sir LSG single, 3-4 songs today. I've got a template for artwork, which I can do today. I can create the label copy today, and I can send it to my aggregator. I could do all that in one day.
Yeah, that is dope.
Whereas in the past, if I was putting out something through the physical format, even a 12-inch LP, which is kind of in a sense what we're replicating with releasing EPs and singles, the process and checkpoints that we had to do on a product like that was immense, and it took a lot of time. Whereas now in the digital age, because the physical world doesn't exist in a sense with music anymore, we can just knock out music quicker. I can sit here in my office and put my head down, and if I've got a bunch of stuff I've licensed, I can put it all together. I could put maybe 4 to 5 EPs together in a day, which in the physical world, 4 to 5 releases maybe in a month.
Yeah, and that was a lot anyway, by then.
Yeah, exactly. You would have to be defected or someone of that magnitude to be able to cope with that amount of releases back in those days.
Yeah. Okay, because you are working with a lot of new artists in the industry, I assume that naturally there will be the kind of feel that of wanting things to happen quicker than they actually do. How do you work around that with your artists? Because I'm assuming that, as a new artist, some artists see a Bruce Loco release, and now suddenly Bruce Loco is releasing on an international label, and suddenly China Chameleon is dropping an album. How frequent do you get this kind of feel that artists want to see things happening quicker with their careers once they release on Stage 2?
I think every person is different. I think every artist is different. There's 2 types of artists that I deal with. The one which you're explaining, which is kind of like the impatience, I want everything to happen yesterday. And then the other one who's very focused and has patience and understands that their journey is going to take some time. They need to put the work in. And I'm both as an artist. I also want to release music and make sure that, I make something that people will enjoy, and then that increases my visibility. And then through increasing my visibility, I get more gigs, and then I make more money. Everyone wants that. But there's one thing I do know for sure in the music industry, without a doubt, is that you cannot plan a hit. You cannot plan Dawson and CO Forbidden. You can't make that up. You can't, I had no idea that would do what it did. That's the biggest song State True Sounds has ever put out. And I've never tried to replicate it because it is what it is. And the same applies, when I was back at Soul Candy. We were so pushed to try and find radio hits, but radio and a big song will only be a big song once it's a big song. You can't plan it. You can't sit in a studio and say, I'm going to make a hit song, and then it's a hit song. I think the process that we put music out on State True Sounds, like I said before, it's very, if it feels good, we're not going in there to make hits, we're going in there to make music that we feel. And if it becomes popular, it's an advantage. But to get back to your question, there's how I deal with artists is I'm very upfront about how the relationship is going to work. And when I get their stuff within a week to 3 weeks, they've got a release date.
Cool.
And what they do after that, like I said, I don't get involved in their bookings, and I don't get involved in their management, and all I do is I'm the vessel for this release. And if the release does really well, amazing.
Yeah.
Then hopefully their career will take off. If you look at what happened with Dawson, Dawson did his first single with Stay True Sounds. Luna popped off. That became an underground anthem. And it actually won Best Underground Song, Underground Tune at the Dance Music Awards.
Yeah.
And then did his album, which had Forbidden on it with Sio. And that lifted Sio's career, and it lifted his career, and then the album did quite well for him. And now he's
releasing on Jimstar's label now.
He's releasing on Free Range. He's releasing on Aluka Rebels. He's played in Germany. I know. Hopefully, when the lockdown eases up, he'll be able to travel more. He just got back from Kenya. But my point is that, and I've seen this happen a lot in the industry, is that record labels get very emotional about their contribution towards someone's career. Well, I made that happen. And in a sense, you did, but the artist also made it happen. And I think that goes back to having vision. If I know that I'm comfortable with Dawson succeeding without me, even though I contributed towards his success, then I know that I can sleep at night.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the one thing. Like, I'm happy for any of my artists to grow. And when I say my artists, they're not my artists. Music that I've licensed from artists, I'm happy for any of them to grow. Bruce Loco has released, he's got an album coming out on Get Physical. His first releases were with Stay True Sounds. Dawson is growing. And all I want is for everyone to do well. There's more than enough talent in this country for Stay True Sounds to continue existing and putting out great music. And if we could all keep growing like we are and having releases on international labels, it just helps everyone else. Because it all just points back to the South African underground.
Sure. But what's also very commendable to mention is that I've seen on a lot of, more often than not, when Stay True does have a floor on a certain festival or a party, you do plug in the artists that have released on the label, and that's a powerful thing to do, I just wanted to mention that. But just one more question that I have with regards to the music and the industry, with the current space that we are in now, with COVID-19 and the lockdown, festivals shutting down, and it's been for the longest of time perceived that yes, the music is important, but you will make your real money through performance. But I want to know, are you conflicted in any way with regards to releasing the music? Because I know you work quite ahead with regards to your release schedules, but are you conflicted with how you are getting the music out there, considering that the artist might not be getting gigs at the time where an album is dropping or a single is dropping?
It's a tough one because, like I said, I personally don't take any. I had no benefits of a DJ's gigs. My benefit as a record label is on sales of music. But gigs are very important for a person's career to expand, which will therefore help the music. To be honest, it's not something I've really sat down and thought about. My reaction to COVID-19 has literally just been to work, which I've been doing non-stop. I've been putting out music, I've been doing live streams from my studio here behind us, and I've just been focusing on Stay True Sounds. I don't think the lockdown is going to be forever. However, I do think that gigs are going to take a big knock, and I think we're going to have to adjust to enjoying our favorite DJs online. I think building up an artist's career in the meantime so that they can start taking advantage of Hit Refresh and Shimza's Lockdown and possibly a stream or two of their own on their own Facebook will keep them connected to their audience. But we're gonna have to change the way we think about things moving forward based on this lockdown, and that's something I'm constantly thinking of. And I think as an artist that is putting out music, you are going to have to find a way to keep connected to your audience. And sometimes that is just a release. I still believe China Chameleon is going to have a big year this year, regardless of COVID-19, because his music will be speaking to people. How he's going to get DJ bookings, I'm not sure.
Nobody
I don't
knows.
even know when the DJ gigs are going to be available for us for the next 2-3 months. But all we can do is put our head down and focus on the music. And it's incredible to see how the shift has, how things have shifted and changed to online or TV since the lockdown. People are embracing DJs, performances on TV, Vinny's house. Like I said, I've been doing some streams. There's some guys that are getting a lot of traction. So if you can find a way to engage with your audience in that sense, I would definitely do it, and do it consistently.
Sure, bro.
To make sure that it's, you're still relevant, especially if you are a producer DJ.
I think I do concur with what you're saying as well, because when the lockdown happened, initially I had this negativity, obviously everybody's panicking. I'm panicking too. Oh my gosh, gigs and whatever. But I also realized the silver lining in it is that it now gives everybody a chance to just sit back, do your music if you're a producer, find ways to DJ if you're a DJ, find ways to get more out there. Now it's almost like the playing field is level in some way, and it gives everybody a chance to kind of, now everybody can go back to really focusing on the art without the pressure of wanting to be seen or wanting to get out there more. So that's just how I looked at it. And I want to ask you one more thing about a label. What would your words be to somebody who is thinking about starting a label, or at the basis of it, without going too long or too far, but where should they really be looking at, or what should they be really looking out for if they want to start a label now?
I think it just goes back to vision, man. Just make sure that you're comfortable with your vision. When you decide what you want to do with your life as a child, if you know what makes you happy, you know what you're gonna wake up in the morning and want to do.
Yeah.
If a record label is that, do it.
Sure.
If playing football is more that than owning a record label, play football.
Sure.
It's got to. For the longest of time, I think I'm actually going to dig it out because I have a bit more time now. I have a book that I made, I think when I was 10, and it was like what I want to do when I'm older. And I said one of the things was own a record label. So from the beginning of time, this was kind of my destiny that I'd created for myself. And I think that's what it takes. And that goes with anything in life. If there's something you want to do, just do it, man. Just do it. It doesn't have to be a record label, but if it is a record label, do it. It's not easy. There's not real money. Like I explained earlier, the money you make on streams versus the money you make on physical is insane. How much less it is. So you got to be able to carry the business yourself for a while before it makes money. And sometimes it doesn't even make money. You're just covering costs. You got to understand it's not an easy business to be in, but if it's something you're passionate about and something you want to wake up and commit your time to, do it.
Yeah, man. Anyway, I think we've covered more than enough. I just want to say thank you so much for doing this, but thank you even more for the work that you're doing, for the underground scene. for putting out the music that you're putting out, and for playing the music that you're playing on your show, on a national radio show. You know, it's almost unheard of. You know, it's uncalled for, if I may say.
I'm
But
touching myself, man. I can't believe I'm playing this stuff on radio, and yeah, and they just let me do it. They just
yeah,
like let me be. It's a beautiful thing.
it's amazing, man. And I do believe that there's more people out there who could be watching this, who have the passion for the music, and who could, in the long run, you know, go through a similar steps, or in their own way, be able to be in those platforms and actually influence the platforms in their own way, you know. And yeah, man, you're doing it. You're doing it. Thank you so much, bro.
Thank you so much for having me, bro. And
Cool.
I look forward to hanging out once lockdown's done.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah. So, guys, everybody who's watching, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned a bit. I hope you can take something from the chat, and I hope you can stay positive as well, and be honest with yourself with what it is that you want, what it is that you can do, that you think you can do, that you can achieve, and if you believe in it, really just go for it. You know, there's always ways and there's always platforms where you can find out how these things they happen. How do they really happen? You know. But thank you so much for watching. Share the video. Share it with some people who might be keen, who might learn something from it, and yeah, be creative. Peace out.